Global News on Equa Television International. Let's look at stories making international headlines. The political crisis in the United Kingdom affects the opposition Labour Party. China GDP growth recovers faster in Q3, but risks emerge. Two Koreas exchange warning strikes close to the sea border amidst tensions. Boris Johnson ditches plan for return, and in Africa, many Moroccans protest high cost of living. While Tories are looking for a new prime minister after the resignation of Liz Truss, the Labour Party, having rejuvenated itself, seems destined to take up the reins of government sooner rather than later. Since David Cameron became Prime Minister after the Conservatives' election victory in 2010, Labour has been anxious to oust the Tories. Now, for the first time in years, it has a good chance of coming to power in the next elections, which must take place in 2024 at the latest. Party leader Keir Starmer stressed that Labour believes it is equipped to govern after Truss's resignation. He also declared his readiness to take up responsibility. "We are ready to form a government," Starmer said, according to reports on Thursday. Furthermore, during Labour's conference at the end of September, Starmer outlined the party's agenda to improve and transform Britain for the better. He presented his strategies for a publicly owned energy company, installation for every British home, and carbon-free power by the end of the decade, with the resolve to attack the rising cost of living and to level up the UK's regions. Some professionals, however, argue that much of what Starmer announced were promises rather than coherent plans. Thus far, Labour have mainly gained from the turmoil within the Tories and the present economic situation, not by bringing a brilliant message that has stoked a movement and Labour revival. The boisterous Boris Johnson years on Truss and her failed mini-budget have led to financial turmoil, causing the public to become weary of its government. Indeed, present elections have Labour leading the Tories by up to 30% points figure, not seen since Tony Blair led Labour to new heights in 2011. With that kind of polling advantage, Labour wants fresh elections. However, much to the opposition's dismay, this seems, at least for now, unlikely. Under the Fixed Term Parliament Act, an early election can only because if 2/3 of MPs are in support of the idea. Since Johnson's landslide victory in 2019, the Tories possess an absolute majority in the House of Commons. Prime Minister, the new resident of number 10 Downing Street, will face major trouble retreating course and re-establishing trust in the party. Labour are thus in somewhat comfortable position right now, with the British economy and national budget already suffering and the country's debt extremely high, very least adequately capable to lead. On economy, according to official figures, China's economy has recovered at a faster than expected pace in the third quarter, but tight COVID-19 curbs and intensifying property crisis and global recession risk are challenging Beijing's attempts to foster a robust revival over the next year. Gross domestic product GDP in the world's second biggest economy rose 3.9% in the July-September quarter year-on-year. Official data showed on Monday above the 3.4% pace forecast poll of analysts and hastening from the 0.4% pace in the second quarter, according to reports. The data was primarily planned for release on October 18th, but was delayed amid a major Communist Party Congress last week, which ended with Xi Jinping securing a precedented-breaking third term as its leader. The economy was buoyed by the manufacturing sector, with separate data showing industrial output in September rose 6.3% from a year past, beating prospects for a 4.5% gain and 4.2% in August. On Monday, Chinese stocks fell and the yuan declined as investors engrossed in the country's latest governing body membership, which was taxed with loyalists to Xi, intensifying fears he will double down on ideology-driven policies at the cost of economic growth. Despite the growth, the economy faces challenges on numerous fronts at home and abroad. China's zero COVID-19 strategy and trouble in its vital property sector have worsened the external pressure from the Ukraine crisis, a global slowdown due to interest rate surge to curb red-hot inflation. A poll has forecast China's growth to slow to 3.2% in 2022, far below the official goal of about 5.5%, marking one of the worst performances in almost half a century. North and South Korea have exchanged warning shots off their western coast, condemning each other of breaking their maritime border amidst rising tensions over Pyongyang's weapon tests. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff JCS said it broadcast warnings and fired warning shots to repel a North Korean merchant vessel that crossed the Northern Limit Line (NLL), the de facto sea boundary, at approximately 3:40 a.m. local time on Monday. North Korea's military said it fired 10 rounds of artillery warning shots towards its territorial waters where naval enemy movement was detected. It accused a South Korean naval ship of intruding into North Korean waters on the excuse of cracking down on an unidentified ship. JCS said the North Korean artillery firers breached a 2018 inter-Korean accord on limiting military animosities and undermines steadiness on the Korean peninsula. It said the North Korean shells did not land in South Korean waters, but that it is improving its military enthusiasm. There were no reports of clashes, but the poorly marked sea boundary off the Korean peninsula's west coast is a source of long-running animosities between the two countries. It is the scene of long-running animosities between the two countries and also a scene of many bloody inter-Korean naval battles and violence in recent years, including North Korea's shelling of a South Korean island and its alleged torpedoing of a South Korean Navy ship that killed 50 people in 2010. The newest exchange of fire came amid festering tension, with North Korea carrying out weapon tests at an unprecedented pace this year. In recent weeks, North Korea has launched short-range ballistic missiles and hundreds of artillery rounds off its east and west coast on several occasions in power over its southern neighbors' military activities. Now, Boris Johnson, ex-British Prime Minister, has dropped a bid to lead the Conservative Party, ending a short-lived, high-profile attempt to return to a job he was removed from little more than 3 months ago. His withdrawal on Sunday leaves former Finance Minister Rishi Sunak the strong favourite to become the United Kingdom's next Prime Minister, the third this year, at a time of political chaos and serious economic challenges. Johnson had raced home from a holiday in the Caribbean to try and secure the backing of 100 legislators to join the contest to replace Liz Truss, the woman who succeeded him in September after he was forced to resign over a series of scandals. Late on Sunday, he said that he had secured the support of 102 legislators and could have been back in Downing Street, but that he had failed to persuade either Sunak or the other contender, Penny Mordaunt, to come together in the national interest. The former Prime Minister had secured the public backing of just less than 60 Conservative legislators by Sunday, well under half of the closely 150 endorsements Sunak had received. Johnson's statement likely gives away for his archival, the 42-year-old Sunak to become Prime Minister possible as soon as Monday. It confirmed he will replace Truss, who was forced to resign after she inaugurated an economic program that stoked uproar in financial markets. According to the rules, if only one candidate secures the backing of 100 Conservative legislators, they will be named Prime Minister on Monday. If two candidates pass the threshold, they will go forward to a vote of party membership, with the winner announced on Friday, just days before new Finance Minister Jeremy Hunt lays bare the state of the country's finances in a budget plan due to be released on October 31st. That had raised concerns that Johnson will return to Downing Street with the backing of the party members and supporters in the capital to protest against the high cost of living. The rally outside Parliament came after numerous protests already this week in Rabat and other Moroccan cities. It was organized by the country's main trade union, the UNTM, which is close to the Justice and Development Party, PJD. The PJD was rooted in legislative elections in September 2021 when the Liberal NI party led by Prime Minister Aziz Akanaut performed well. Prices are rising and the government is asleep, protesters chanted before dispersing peacefully after about 90 minutes. Consumer price inflation was 8.3% on year September, due in large part to surging food prices, which were up to 14.7%. Fuel prices have also increased sharply, making Akanaut a particular aim of rage, given that he is a billionaire local oil distribution baron. And on more stories, recent floods continue to destroy livelihoods in Cameroon. The market town of Kosari in the far north province of Cameroon, near the border with Chad, has been battling with major floods for a week. Two regional rivers that have confluenced here, the Logan and Chari, and both seeing extremely high water levels that are projected to rise even more. Sandbags were being used in an attempt to contain the rivers, but for numerous parts of Kosari, it was already too late. Homes in the town have been flooded, and people were seen walking through knee-high muddy water carrying possessions to try and save them from the floods. Families have been left homeless and have built temporary shelters from sticks and sheets on dry, higher ground. The Logan and Chari rivers separate Cameroon from neighboring Chad, which declared a state of emergency this week to help tackle the crisis. And still in Africa, roadside learning centers on the rise in Mozambique. Learning is taking place in the streets, on major roads, avenues, and at many traffic lights in Mozambique. Many young people in Maputo earn their living clearing car windows and now have the green light to learn at the traffic lights with appointments scheduled in teacher Katerina's classes. Katerina Sieve, a 25-year-old maths teacher, decided to assist others and train people by investing in the project. Immune to the hustle and bustle around them, the pupils occupy plastic chairs lined up in the corner of the pavement. The goal is to guarantee access to basic Portuguese and mathematics content and then guide them to a formal education institution. This project is personified with love, with the support of partners and sponsors and people of goodwill who are accessible to help the students write a different future. And finally, on global news, on sports, World Cup 1950, when football's biggest event resumed after World War II. After a gap of 12 years, the Football World Cup returned for its fourth edition. The destruction, tragedy and political turmoil caused by World War II took its toll on all European countries. In other parts of the world, the after effects were being felt too, which is why it took FIFA time to find willing hosts. South America, which had not hosted the tournament since the inaugural edition, made use of this opportunity, and Brazil was selected to host its first World Cup. Qualification for the tournament was complicated due to financial and political reasons. Defending champions Italy were in a crisis of their own as the Superga air disaster led to the death of some Italy's biggest football stars. The team eventually did participate, but with a weakened squad. Other qualifiers, such as India and Turkey, withdrew, citing financial and logistical reasons. England, despite its football history, played its first World Cup after joining finally the governing body. When the tournament finally kicked off, two groups comprised 4 teams. One group had 3 teams and one group just had 2 teams. The group winners advanced to the final rounds, where a round-robin format was in play to maximize the number of matches and ticket sales. Brazil seemed firm favourites to win their last match over Uruguay and be crowned champions in front of nearly 200,000 home fans. A goal in the 47th minute put them ahead, but Uruguay completed a comeback to score 2 goals in 30 minutes and leave the home fans stunned. Uruguay became the second country to win the title for the second time. Welcome back. Zoom of Nigeria. The federal government evacuates 542 stranded Nigerians from the United Arab Emirates. A total of 542 stranded Nigerians in the United Arab Emirates, UAE, evacuated back home by the federal government arrived at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, on board Max Air chartered flight on yesterday morning at 4:29 a.m. The evacuees consisted of 79 males, 460 females and 3 infants. The stranded Nigerians last month made a viral video appealing to the federal government to come to their aid as they were stranded at the Dubai International Airport after the UAE authorities seized their passports. The evacuees, earlier scheduled to arrive Nigeria Saturday morning, were held back due to certain unforeseen circumstances. On arrival, they were received by a federal government team led by the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, and airport officials, security agencies including National Commission for Refugees and Internally Displaced Persons, NAPTIP, Nigerian Diaspora Commission, NDLEA, Nigerian correctionals were screened by the health officials, profiled by various relevant agencies and cleared by Nigerian Immigration Service before given some amount of money as transport fare by NEMA before leaving the airport. Earlier, the Director General, NEMA, Mustafa Habib Ahmed, who officially received the returnees on behalf of the federal government, admonished them to learn from their experiences and be law-abiding citizens by promoting the image of Nigeria. Ahmed, represented by the Director of Finance and Accounts, Alhaji Sani Ahmed Jiba, noted that the federal government had approved the evacuation and provision of the token for the returnees to support movement of the returnees back to their homes. Similarly, in her remarks, the Consul General of Nigeria in Dubai, Ambassador Atinuke Taibat Mohammed, who accompanied the returnees back on the flight, appreciated the federal government for the special intervention in safe evacuation of the stranded citizens back home. The United States says terrorist planning raids in Abuja on the threat. This was contained in a statement issued by Embassy on Sunday, October 23, 2022, warning American citizens in the country to be cautious of their movement in response to elevated risk of terror attacks in the country. The security alert also advised U.S. citizens to avoid all non-essential travel of movement, stay alert and avoid crowds, especially in Abuja, where the threat is more ominous. The statement read, there is an elevated risk of terror attacks in Nigeria, specifically in Abuja. Targets may include but are not limited to government buildings, places of worship, schools, markets, shopping malls, hotels, bars, restaurants, athletic gatherings, transport terminals, law enforcement facilities, and international organizations. According to reports, Abuja was under the spotlight a few months ago when terrorists overran the Kuje Correctional Center and set free over 800 inmates, including all the top Boko Haram suspects in detention. However, reports later claimed that the Nigerian security agencies had failed to act on an intelligence report. FCT security has been beefed up around the FCT to fortify the nation's capital against another terrorist attack. On business underwater as flood rages. Many micro, small and medium enterprises in Nigeria that were already facing existential threats from a struggling economy. Most of the businesses that have been worst hit are those involved in small-scale farming, logistics and Bayelsa, said Friday Okpara, Director of Partnerships and Coordination of Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agencies of Nigeria. Abdul Rashid Rewima affected. African flood defenses and climate change have displaced over 1 million people and caused over 600 deaths. This situation has prompted Sadia Umar Farouk, Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, to ask state governments badly affected by the flood to prepare to evacuate residents living along flood plains. The Nigerian Meteorological Agency had earlier warned that at least 32 of the 36 states in Nigeria, including Kaduna, Borno, Delta and Bayelsa, were expected to experience a high risk of flooding this year. Already, Benue, Jigawa, Nasarawa, Taraba, Kano, Bauchi, Niger, Anambra, Kogi and Ebonyi have recorded flooding incidents within the last month. Just recently, Vice President of External Relations and Stakeholder Management at Olam Agri revealed that the company's 10,000 hectare land in Nasarawa, with investment worth about $140 million investment, has been submerged by floods. GIG Logistics, a Korea and logistics services company, also notified its customers recently via its social media handle that the flooding was affecting their businesses. And finally, Tinubu Atiku fight dirty against 2023 polls. In what promises to be one of the fastest verbal encounter in the electioneering season leading to the 2023 polls, the All Progressives Congress APC presidential candidate Bola Tinubu and his People's Democratic Party PDP counterpart Atiku Abubakar yesterday taunted each other in their ongoing battle for credibility. In the latest face-off, the standard bearers of two major political parties were struggling for the soul of Kano State ahead of the 2023 general election. The APC standard bearer cast the first stone when it, in a veiled reference to Atiku's frequent trips to Dubai, said he will not be a Nigerian president who will spend 50% of his time in the country and the rest 50% in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, UAE. But hitting back hard at his APC counterpart, Atiku said the empty streets which greeted Tinubu's visit to Kano was a clear indication that he had already lost the support of the people of the state. Atiku said the development had indicated that he had defeated Tinubu in Kano. Earlier, Tinubu, who spoke in Kano at an interactive session with members of the Tajnia sect, had taken advantage of Atiku's frequent Dubai trips to let Nigerians understand why they need a president who is on ground with them 100%. To refresh our memories, the political crisis in the United Kingdom affects the opposition Labour Party. China GDP growth recovers faster in Q3 but risks emerge. Two Koreas exchange warning strikes close to the sea border amidst tensions. Boris Johnson ditches plan to return, and many Moroccans protest high cost of living. And that's all we have for the news today. Do enjoy the rest of your day and have a good week ahead. Bye-bye.